Welcome to our Refocused Radio. Today, just like any other time, we have another amazing guest for y'all. Today, we have the one and only Mark Collins. He is someone that you need to know about because he's doing some amazing things with his business and also in life in general. We're going to learn all about his story. Today's topic is about changing your life one thought at a time. Make sure you go to our guest website. If you're watching us online, you'll see a ticker tape going on a little bit right now. But if you're listening to us on radio, it's real easy. It's freedom-for-life.net. Again, that's freedom-for-life.net. And like I said, today we're going to be all about Mark Collins. He is a transformational business and life coach, founder of Freedom for Life LLC, and the author of Life Mastery. So without further ado, I could spend another 20 minutes on your bio, but we know you've done a lot so far. So I just want to welcome you first to the show and say, how you doing, Mark?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me on.
Well, I appreciate you taking time talking to us. Let's dive right into this. When you think about the starting foundation of our mindset, how it is a very powerful tool. It's something that can be our best friend or our worst enemy when it comes to how we shape our life with our mindset. Yeah. What are some things that come to your thoughts as far as how we can have that foundational start when we do it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the hidden secret that most people don't know is you'll never reach higher, achieve more, go farther than you think you can. And it's not in an activity where I think maybe can I accomplish it or can I not? It's really an identity statement that says I'm capable of amazing things, or I need to just kind of control where I'm at right now. And so a lot of the times we think that we just need to achieve more, or we need to find somebody who's doing great and we just need to mirror them, right? I need to imitate that person who's doing amazing in my life. But the challenge is you really are where you're at because of the thoughts you've had about yourself. Not about your directions, your activities, or your skill set, but about who you are. And so the fastest way to become what I call the person you're created to be, to have that amazing life that you're believing for, is to focus on and pay attention to the thoughts that you think. As I tell the people that I work with, I say your thoughts are either aligned with who you're created to be or they're lying to you. And if they're lying to you, you're probably dissatisfied with where your life's at. And if they're aligned with where you're at, you're probably more than fulfilled. You're probably excited for every day when you wake up.
I really like that. I'm gonna have to take notes when I listen to this and watch it in the replay, and I'm gonna steal that from you because I never heard it put in that way, and that's real creative. I like that. How did you come up with that? Because a lot of times I hear guests on the show, you can tell they have some great quotes from ancient times, whatever. But that's a really nice way you put it. I love that, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it. For me, it comes from my own study. The things I help people with aren't because I have an amazing idea or a business concept that I want to share or pass on or get paid for. It's because it was a journey I had to live. And so all of those things I've talked about you holding yourself back, being your own self-limiting belief and having to change your thoughts to change your life, that was the battle for me. Was growing up as a guy who felt like he couldn't measure up to the dad that he had and didn't feel like he was ever somebody that was successful enough. And so trying to succeed my way out of fear of failure, imposter syndrome, those things that you deal with, I found that the biggest battle was the things I told myself. It wasn't the negativity from other people, although that hurts, that matters and that can have an effect. But the voice that matters the most is your own. And what you're telling yourself about yourself is the one that can keep you where you're at or can launch you into where you're going and the things you're called and created for. So my sayings come out of my own life journey and really that transformation that I'm working on and have worked on, and then working with other people to try and put it in a way that they can understand it and they can actually live it.
And that will segue into my follow-up question for you. When people are listening to this on radio or watching this online, a lot of people, they struggle with that negative voice that's in their head. I feel like I'm just going to be the first one to raise my hand. You might think that this show is like doing amazing, but it's like, hey, I'm human too. I have my good days and my bad days. I think that negative talk, it doesn't go away. So my next question for you would be, what are some of the practical steps that you found working with your clients that helps them to shift those thoughts towards a more empowering mindset?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think I'll start with the thing that doesn't work. What doesn't work is you just creating some generic mantra or affirmation, right? I'm a man of wealth. I'm a man of wealth. I'm a man of wealth. Whatever the thing is, right? There's this understanding that we have, and it's a false understanding that you just need to create some sort of mantra, some sort of affirmation. You just need to say it long enough, hard enough, right? There's people that teach whole systems on it. And then, if I say it long enough, I'm going to do that. Or the other part is the thing that I talked about earlier, the imitation, right? I need to imitate this man or woman of amazing success. And when I do what they do, I'll have what they have. And the challenge in all of that is it takes away the thing that matters most, and that's identity. The truth of the matter is who I believe I am is the person that's going to show up. I can tell myself all sorts of cool things that I'm going to do or going to be or going to overcome. But at the end of the day, you fall back to the level of life you believe you can live and the level of person you believe you're created to be. And so for me, it starts with understanding, don't use generic mantras. Don't use somebody else's idea of what success looks like and try and measure up to them, but really start to unpack who you created to be. What I tell the people I work with is you're either living from who you're created to be or what your life has told you. And our lives have told us something, right? Academically, I struggled some in school. And so my life told me that I wasn't as smart as everybody else. Having a father who was a very strong figure that was very matter of fact in the way he disciplined his children, let me put it that way, made me feel like I could never measure up to him, right? And so there's things that everybody's life tells them. Maybe it's abuse. Maybe it's things that people have told you. Maybe it's failures that you've had in your past or relationships that haven't worked out. If you're not living from who you're created to be, identity for us is foundational in everything. If you're not living from that place, then you're living from what your life has told you, and you're either proving it right or trying to prove it wrong. Both of them are challenging because neither one of them will leave you with the life that you're created for. So for me, it starts with, let's stop using the generic things that don't work for anyone. And let's start unpacking a little bit of, can you see who you are, the person you're created to be, not just gifts, talents, and abilities, but the character that you are. The person that is that passionate, caring, compassionate, strong, determined individual. And in that place, you still use affirmations, but they align with who you are. So it's not something I'm trying to measure up to. It's a person I'm trying to unleash.
Once again, you're listening to Refocused Radio and watching us online, talking to our guest today, Mark Collins, talking about changing your life one thought at a time. Go to his website, freedom-for-life.net. My next question, follow-up from what you were saying just moments ago, is when we think about identifying who we are and actually what we want to become, I mean, it's a process. It's something that is easy to identify and say, okay, that's bingo. That's the button. That's the one I'm pressing. Yeah. But it's after you press that button and it's like, okay, life is going to get real. You have your challenges, but that is the norm when you're doing something that's valuable. That's what I always try to say. Anytime you have something that's valuable on your plate, it's going to be tested. You might think it's going to be easy in the beginning, but as we mature in life, we understand that what we get out of it is based on our own effort and what we put into it. So my next question is, someone watching this or listening to us right now, what's some of the daily habits that they can start forming to start reinforcing not just their identity, but a strong positive mindset that goes along with the day in to day out activities?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll give you a couple of things I would start with. The first one is I would start with, and this is what we start with everybody we work with. In order to create an identity, you need to understand who you are. And it's who you are apart from your past, your pain, the struggles, the challenges and experiences you've walked through, but it's also apart from your successes, your trophies, your diplomas. You see those things if you're watching online. You see a couple of things in the top end of my picture, there's those diplomas, and we tend to think we are our accomplishments, our successes, or we're those things that we've walked through, those experiences we've had, and those pains that we've been challenged with. If you take both of those things aside, the person that's left looking in the mirror is the person who you are. It's an I am statement. It's a character statement. And so I would start in that place of saying, who are you apart from? If it was somebody like myself, part of my I am statement would be, I'm a person of integrity. I'm a person of compassion. I'm a person that's passionate of those things that I believe in, and I'm an advocate for those who are less than, who are marginalized, who are left behind. I'm a person that's caring and diligent in those things that I have, and I have the fortitude to accomplish everything I set before myself. That would be an I am statement for myself. It doesn't talk about my past and what I've walked through. It doesn't tell you about the trophies that I've gained. It's the person that shows up in the relationship in the spiritual walk, in the financial walk, in my job, my vocation, in my business. So it's who you are apart from those things. Start with that thing. Start to unpack you apart from that. And the second thing I would give you is create a celebration list. I've created over 100. I tell people to create 20. The challenge, especially for men, if I can speak to them today, a lot of times men can see the thing that they're not good at, the thing that they got to get better at, the thing that they could have done differently, versus giving themselves a accomplishment or a pat on the back for the thing that they've done and who they are. And so answer this question and give yourself the top 20. What do you love about you?
That's good.
Because
Man,
when I start from that place of showing I'm a person of quality, of value, of worth before I've started anything, then all of a sudden that gives me the freedom to fail. That gives me freedom to try. That means gives me the freedom to not do great or perfect the first time. It gives me a freedom to just be me. And then that place, celebrate who I am apart from those accomplishments I have. Sometimes we feel like we're not good enough until I get those millions, until I have that house, until I have that job, that title, that role. But the truth of the matter is you'll never feel more valuable when you get them if you don't feel valuable before you start. So in those places, part of unpacking it is get that I am statement out there, get that celebration list. And then those affirmations I talked about, the generic ones that don't work, the ones that do work are aligned with who you are. So first thing in the morning, last thing at night, go over your I am statement, go over your celebration list, and you'll have a much better picture of who you are, and you'll have a much more impassioned understanding of what the impact is you're supposed to have in the world.
when you think about how people have common traps, and what I mean by that is when you find yourself making progress or find yourself, you hit a home run today, the very next day, storms come, it rains and pours, and I call it life challenges. They just kind of pop up like whack-a-mole. Like when you least expect it to happen, it's like, surprise, I'm here. When you think about how people have to make those adjustments as they are navigating through the challenges, what are some of the mind traps, though, that people can recognize and be like, okay, hold up, maybe I need to pause and breathe, take a couple deep breaths before I react? What's some things you see actually work to kind of get outside of those mind traps when challenges come? Yeah,
that's a great question. And so there's a couple of them. The first one is the feeling of inferiority, of not being good enough, right? The worry a lot of times. So for me, it was dealing with fear of failure and imposter syndrome, which is just another way of saying, I don't know if I'm good enough. And you don't say that, you don't admit that in your own life. But what happens when stress happens? What happens, I've been there when I've made a business decision, right? Where the expenses of the business are outpacing the income. At some point, something's going to happen. Either you're going to be bankrupt, you're going to have to close your business, or you're going to have, better marketing or whatever. But in the meantime, in the awkward middle, before anything happens, was in the worst time in your life, because it's the time where you're questioning what you're doing, questioning if you're good enough, and all of those things that are happening. What you recognize is that it's not the experience I walk through, it's what that experience says about me. A relationship doesn't work out, a business fails, right? My wife and I had a successful business that we sold for a mid-six-figure profit. It was the fourth one we had. The first three we didn't sell for a profit because they didn't succeed. So here's the interesting thing. It's not the experience you walk through, the business failed, it's I'm a failure. It's not that the relationship didn't work out, we weren't compatible, we weren't really on the same page, we weren't unified in what we desired as our goals. It's I'm not worth loving. I'm not good enough for them. I need to settle for where I'm at. So it's not the experience you walk through, it's the identity statement you take from it. So the trap is always an experience that you walk through that tells you who you are. And we're used to it, right? If we don't live from who we're created to be, it's what our life has told us. But when you start to unpack identity, when you start to create an I am statement and a celebration list, when you start to tell yourself who you are, that person starts to show up every day. And challenges still happen. Struggles still come along, right? People who strive greatly, are challenged with big things. The bigger the goal, the bigger the challenges you have to overcome, you have to figure out answers to. But the question I have for you is, are you the answer walking into the room or the question to be figured out? When you understand your identity, when you understand who you are, when you're feeding yourself the truth of who you are throughout your day, that man or that woman starts to show up. You start to understand that, no, I'm the answer walking into the room. It's not arrogance. It's not ego. It's understanding that I always find solutions to the challenges in my life, and this is no different. And or every failure I have is a learning experience, so I get better for the next time. Remember, we succeeded at the fourth business, not the first one. If we didn't get better and didn't believe we could, the first one we would have quit. But when you understand who you are, that's your answer walking into the room, and I believe everybody listening and watching this is that answer. There's an impact in the world that has your name on it. When you start to believe that, challenges can never get too big for you to shrink back or to stop believing in yourself.
Once again, this on Refocused Radio and watching us online, talking to our guest, Mark Collins, talking about changing your life one thought at a time. Go to his website, freedom-for-life.net. And one thing I wanted to touch on is that just as an example with this show, we literally started at a barbershop on pure thought.
Nice.
I had a conversation with the owner, Rico Rodriguez. Shout out to Rico. He is a big piece of why the show is where it is today. He's like, man, you had a voice for radio. Why are you not using your gift? And long story short is it was a thought process. It wasn't, I knew the resources I was going to have, who I was going to interview, the equipment I was going to have, all that. I had nothing. It was literally just two guys in a barbershop talking. And the rest of the story is on the website. If you're listening, watching one, figure out more about it. But I want to mention that because when you speed up to 2025, you can never convince me in 2017 that this is what I'll be doing. It's crazy. I tell people all the time, it's so crazy. It's so fulfilling to be able to talk to people and interview people. But just circle back to today's topic, change your life one thought at a time. I lived that, I'm still living it. Like, that's why I always mention the sunshine and the rainy days. Yeah. Because what I've learned on this journey being with this platform is that the weight of success will crush you when you're not ready. Yeah. Sometimes it's okay because that's the only way you're going to learn. So you can't try to hope, oh man, hope is easy street on business. Well, everyone wants to think like that. Like, who wouldn't want to hope that nothing bad will happen or you won't have challenges? Yeah. But you got to get through it. And so this whole idea of your power of your thoughts and your mindset and how it shifts is truth, man. I'm living it right now.
Yeah. Amen. Thanks for that testimony. That's amazing.
When you think about how we use our platforms, in your case, you're coming on making different appearances on different shows, talking about what you do with your clients. What's one story, if you could, because you have a life mastery course I want you to get into, what's one story you can think of where you've coached a client and transformed their life and help them make that shift? What's one thing that you feel just made the light bulb cut on for them to where they're like, aha, okay, wow, it finally connects. I know exactly what I should be doing in order to make that actual transformation?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for asking. I think, one of the clients that comes to mind is a guy named Brett, who was and is very successful in business. He's a pastor at his local church. He has a wife, he has kids, he has a home. He has successful businesses that he's involved in and people that really engage him to help them with startups, to restart their businesses or to make them better. And the interesting thing about him, which is a lot of the cases that I work with, and including my own life, is the person you see on the outside that you think is all polished and made up and put together, and the guy on the inside, the one that is stressing every time the bills are too much, or the big business presentation or decision, or that job you're trying to go for, and you're trying to make some money, and you don't believe you're good enough. And so for him, it was that man that, like me, you're waking up at 3:00 in the morning, got a big business decision the next day, something he has to figure out, some challenge he needs to overcome, and you're waking up in a cold sweat thinking that, man, this is going to fail and it's all going to be on me. It's going to be my fault. It's a guy that's not seen. A lot of times we can look good for other people. We can look confident, or we don't let people in to let them know what those inner thoughts are that you and I have been talking about. But if we could hear those inner thoughts, if we could see them at 3 o'clock in the morning, or in their office, or in their job, or in their warehouse when they're working and they're totally stressed out because they just don't feel like they're going to be able to do it. It's those things that matter. And so for him, it was not just that he was successful in business, but that he didn't have the stress that come along with it that would rob him of the joy. A lot of times we think that success is going to stop all of the challenges, the negative thoughts, and all the things that are happening. But what happens is those things just come along for the ride. If you don't overcome them, if you don't understand who you're created to be, the fear of failure, the imposter syndrome, the anxiety, worry, and stress, it just goes along with it. And so for him, it was not the success that I've had great joy in. It was the man that started to show up. And he says that his testimony is on my website, and he says this, that he finally understood that he was not just good enough, but he was exactly who he was supposed to be. A guy who's already successful, who already would have a life that most people would say, man, you've made it. You got all of those things that are supposed to make you happy. It was at the point of using Life Master Tools, changing or mastering his thoughts and words and actions, that he started to find out that there were some things standing in the way, part of his life that had been telling him things that weren't the truth, but were the identity he kind of believed. When he unpacked those things, when he overcame those things, when he started understanding his own identity, then it wasn't just the success that mattered. It was the lack of stress. It was the guy who could come home, even on challenging days, and not take it out on his family, who could actually be engaged in those times when, sometimes when stress happens, you can't think and you can't really engage with your family. You just kind of keep everybody out. But being able to be that man to show up, not just in business, but in his home as a husband, as a father, as an engaged person there, so that he felt like his whole life got better when he started to understand who he was.
And that's the key. Start to understand who he was, because I think in life we all have that crossroads moment, and it's simply we can do what we've been doing and just say, okay, I'm just going to do what I want, or we go with our gut and we go to the unknown. In other words, the scary place where we don't know what's going to happen, outside our comfort zone. I think stress is a tool that pulls us out of what we are used to, and it ushers in what we were meant to be. And we don't really live our fullest potential until we start to push ourselves beyond to what we used to understand. And I like that, understanding who you are, because until you take the time to understand who you are, the inner man, you're just going to be kind of like, I'm just showing up and see what life does for me. And it's the opposite. It's more like you have to actually put in the work, put in the tools, get the education that you need. And when I say that, I don't want people to listen, watch this and think, oh yeah, let me just go to college again or get another degree. I'm not necessarily saying that, but more so find the resources that are going to give you the knowledge you need, because until you start going beyond your comfort zone, you're going to stay shallow. I know that testimony. When I started this, I'm going to throw it back to you, is when we started doing video for this show in September 2024. You literally, if you want to, you don't have to, but you can go back in time and see the humble beginnings and see the struggle to where it is now, where the progress, you can see the growth. And that is something that I hope people can take away from this conversation. Is that our thoughts, they also help us navigate how we grow. Because if you're not growing, then you're literally cheating yourself. You're cheating the system, and then you're going to fall flat. But if you're actually growing, you will see the progress that you're making throughout time. Yeah.
No, absolutely. And I think at the end of the day, you're either succeeding to prove who you are or succeeding because of who you are. And I love your story, because it's like with Brett and like with Vance or Jonathan or John or Albert, any of the clients that I've had, or even in my own life, the one thing that doesn't change is the character of the individual, that identity statement, who you are. That's the thing that doesn't change. In your humble beginnings, right? That person of diligence, that person of compassion, that person who's, got laser focused and passionate about the things that they care about, right? Those things don't change over time. The only thing that changes is the mantle that you wear and the audiences that you have to be able to live that out. And so for a lot of times people are looking, hey, I want to be like him. I want to have that successful station. I want to be able to have people on and have recognition for the things I do. We look for those things as a substitute for who we are. And in that place, we don't live out the life we're created for. But that place that you're talking about, outside of your comfort zone, what I call that is that life mastery life, living at the highest level that you're created for. And it can't come from doing those things and succeeding as a substitute for who I am. But when you understand who you are and you be unleashed in that place, you don't just become successful. You find fulfillment, this understanding that, man, this is exactly what I'm created for. This is what my life is supposed to be. And that's the one joy I have, is seeing that time and time again with people, that they're not just trying to get another, zero at the end of their income, or they're not trying to get into a new zip code or have a new car, but they're trying to ensure that the impact that they're supposed to have in the world is the life that they have.
Once again, listening to Refocused Radio and watching us online, talking to our guest, Mark Collins, been talking about throughout the whole show, changing your life one thought at a time. Go to his website. He has resources, he has courses. You got information in the show notes, but if you go to freedom-for-life.net, you can learn everything that he has to offer. My last quick thing for you is, one thing that I can't help, because I'm a creative person, so I always, my mind is playing like a movie when my guests are talking. And one thing I can picture in my mind as we had this conversation is, when you think about like Michelangelo carve the marble until I set the angel free, I can't help but think that that's how we live our lives. We are the managers, if you will, of our own life, and how well we manage is not determined by how smart we are, but instead what we are willing to do and learn.
Yeah.
Because you can claim it and name it and have all these titles, but like we said earlier, the integrity of character, if that doesn't develop, it's almost like having the greatest smartphone, but it has no life because the battery is damaged.
Yeah.
I know that went a little bit left field, but my last question for you is, how do you kind of maintain that North Star that kind of guides you and say, okay, I'm kind of getting away from my calling or what I'm meant to be? How you kind of keep that in check personally?
Yeah, that's a great question. So really quickly, Life Mastery, the course I have in the book that I've written, we consider 5 areas for life mastery. If you master these 5 areas, you're going to have an amazing life that you're created for. And it's the spiritual area, the relational, vocational, whether job or business, your physical and your financial. If you manage or master these 5 areas, you'll have the life that you're created for. And what I tell people, the definition of life mastery is living who you're created to be at the highest level you're created for in every one of these areas. And so for me, it's how do you have that North Star? How do you make sure you're on track? I have visions and I have goals for each of these areas. And the question is, so if whether it's spiritual or financial or say relational, the question I have for myself is, what's the life I'm created for, and what's the highest level I'm meant for in this area? With my wife in relationship, right? What's the level of intimacy and authenticity? What's the level of closeness and companionship, of unity, of care, and all of those things that I believe a relationship is going to be? What's the level that I have that I'm meant for in that area? And who's the person I'm meant to be in that area? And so that's the goal that I have. And so it's going on vacations, it's having date nights, it's having those intimate conversations, it's having one-on-one time apart from family, friends, and everyone. It's those things. In the same way with your financial, your physical, your vocational. What's the business? What's the job? What's the thing that you're created for that is going to change the world simply because you lived? And so for me, it's having those understandings of not just generic goals. I want to be a millionaire. I want to have these things, right? Accomplishments and all of those things are amazing, right? The outcomes of income and all of that, they're a wonderful byproduct of you being who you are. They're a horrible substitute. So I don't tell people, dream for the Bentley, dream for the home in our case, California, in Beverly Hills, right? But understand what's the impact I'm supposed to have, what's the level of stewardship I'm supposed to have financially that I can be trusted with for my benefit and for others' blessing. And in that place, what are the steps I'm taking to make those things happen? In relationship, what are the steps I'm taking to actually make it happen, or spiritually or physically in my life? What am I doing, right? It's one thing to say you want to be in shape. It's another thing to put it on your calendar and live it out. But it's another thing to say, at one time I lost 90 pounds. I was 185 with, I think, 12% body fat. I got there because I believe that was what I was capable of. And so every single day, whether the scale went up or down, I was reminding myself of who I was. I was giving myself a vision and a goal to go for, and eventually I got there. And it's the same with every area of your life, right? It says in the Bible that apart from a vision, you perish. And so what I invite people to is to understand, what are these 5 areas of life? What is your level? Who are you created to be in those areas? And what's the highest level you're created for? And how can you strive to take steps to go towards that goal?
And there's a quote by Henry Ford, and he says, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. And the older I get, the more truer that is, because as we're talking about changing your life one thought at a time, last thing I will leave for our listeners to think about and our viewers is, just think about it this way. If you have a bad day, ask yourself, what am I grateful for? Maybe you have a place to live. Maybe you have your health. Maybe you have a transportation. Maybe just think about the basic things. And I would say sooner or later, everything's going to shift, and you're going to start focusing on the things that you actually appreciate. And the more you think about those things, it's like what we said earlier, know thyself. The more you study yourself, the more you can improve.
Yeah.
The more you the more you study other people, you might improve. But like you said earlier, you're going to miss the number one ingredient, and that's you. You can't just imitate your way through life and think that it's going to last. The person that made the impact in that company or that business is the person that showed up. So I'll leave the audience with that thought. I'll let you have the last word. Someone wants to go to your website, freedom-for-life.net. What's the best way if someone wants to do business with you, connect with you, and see if they're a good fit?
Yeah, I think 2 things. One is, thank you for telling them about the website. I try and be a one-stop shop, so my website is definitely the best place to get a hold of our full-fledged course with all the teachings, the one-on-one coaching, and all of that. That's called Life Mastery. You can also get an e-book version of my book, Life Mastery: Living Life by Design, Not by Default. It's on the website as well, so you can have it out there. My book is available through Amazon. But if you have questions about Life Mastery, want to know if it's for you, what the tools are, how you can use them in your life, you can reach out to me at Mark, M-A-R-K, at freedom-for-life.net.
You've been listening to Refocused Radio and watching us online, talking to our guest, Mark Collins. Make sure you go check out his website and his resources that he has available. Like always, Mark, I want to say to you, thank you for your time.
Thank you. It's been a great conversation.